I gave my party, I colored a picture for the party as though I was the little girl that they saved. Simple prop, draw with your non-dominant hand, and yeah, it looks pretty much like a little kid drew it. I want to know what the party remembers. Not even what the party remembers, because they may take notes or they may forget what they remember from time to time. I kind of want to know what's top of mind. Like, what was their takeaway? What's their version of events? Lots of sessions were spent with me kind of just hanging out with the party while they tried to solve it. It's a really good question. I think I generally try to avoid unnecessary prep time. So, which one was the most worth the prep, and which one was like, I've spent a lot of time prepping this for so little? Yeah. Um, my approach to puzzle design is to basically kind of set up puzzle hooks. So before I throw a big, crazy, complex puzzle in front of players that I've like made something like a prop or something that's like I've put a lot of thought into, I'll give them like a single instance of that. I'll, uh, it'll sometimes literally an NPC will hand them something, whether it's a letter, maybe there's a secret message in it, or there's some puzzle in the form of like kind of blueprints that maybe a tinkerer has to solve to be able to make that. And I'll do that just to see how they engage with it. And the reason that I do that is because my party that I gave a bunch of puzzles to went out of their way to solve some things that I didn't think that they had any business. Like I didn't think that they would. So like I told this story before, but basically I gave my party, I colored a picture for the party as though I was the little girl that they saved. So the little girl, colored a picture of all of them to say thank you. Simple prop, draw with your non-dominant hand, and yeah, it looks pretty much like a little kid drew it. But I also wanted to do it as a way to sort of throw in these odd characters. So she wrote, they look as symbols maybe, but they were these repeating characters around the outside of the picture, and gave it to them, said nothing of it. I think they may have asked the little girl about him. She said, I don't know. They're just, my mom taught me. And I think at the time I was thinking, if they're curious about those characters, they're going to go talk to this family and they're going to find out all this information about them. They didn't do that. They sat there and went like, okay, well, if these stand for a thing, and they basically sort of had a pretty solid guess kind of through brute forcing, like what these letters are based on what the little girl said about what they mean. Here's what these symbols translate to. Completely unnecessary, done by the end of the session because they got it at some point, mid-session. And I was like, dang, that's pretty cool that they just kind of like, oh, I'm gonna mess with this and figure it out. So I was like, let me give them another instance of this. So I took that symbol set and applied it to a puzzle room concept from Tasha's Guide to Everything. There's like this floor that has a bunch of letters on it, and you've got to avoid certain words. And so the first time they went through, that's how they played it. They had to avoid the letters. But then on the flip side of, because I actually made this board, on the flip side of it, I did the same puzzle, but not the same puzzle. I made it slightly different, but I used the characters. I extended it out. I made a whole, alphabet out of those characters, thinking that they would recognize the use of the symbols and go like, haha, that's funny. And they would just sort of run through this room and whatever may happen. But they didn't. They instead solved the whole room. They took the 7, I think they only knew like 4 to 7 characters. I forget exactly how many. They took those characters, applied them to the board, took pictures, put it in a digital thing, and they went through it and they cracked the whole thing. They basically solved the entire, and then they were able to move through safely. That was kind of the point in time, the tipping point was like, I need to really give them a tough puzzle. Like they've sort of like taken on these puzzles they didn't even need to. And so I wanted to try to give them something that would stump them, that they could discover over time, so it wasn't as in their face. So because of that, and that turned into the big crazy set of puzzles that I'll walk through at some point here on the channel. But because of doing that, now I kind of try to use that model in my games where I'll just kind of slip in a puzzle here or there, see how players respond, maybe give them a little bit more. And so by the time that I'm sitting down to say, I'm going to make a little journal from the perspective of this person who, was an engineer and has hobbled together these blueprints for these schematics, but they're actually kind of encoded. You have to solve these sort of like Sudoku like puzzles in order to figure them out. By the time I'm doing that, I know that it's for a good use. I know that it's not gonna, sort of fall on deaf ears in the campaign, because I do like the way that I prep and the way that I design stuff. I don't really want to waste my time. I prep every week for the very next session that I'm going to run, and I try to apply the same thing for the puzzles stuff. I don't design a bunch of hypothetical stuff. I try to make sure that I've, I guess, validated the idea before I sink a bunch of time in, at least whenever possible, right? Yeah, that's what I'd say. Yeah, I think there's also an element, like I like to, usually what I start off with is asking the party, um, if they remember what happened last time. I basically put recaps on the party's plate rather than mine, for two reasons. One, I'm usually sort of setting up, getting my stuff together, getting my notes, whatever it is, and it's a soft transition into the game before we go from like laughing about something somebody said, and then I'm like, so you find yourselves in like it's a nice little buffer. Other people are, it gets everybody talking about and remembering the game, but also I find it really helpful because I want to know what the party remembers. Not even what the party remembers, because they may take notes or they may forget what they remember from time to time. I kind of want to know what's top of mind, like what was their takeaway, what's their version of events, even if it's wrong, because I will rarely correct them. I will. I will correct, but I'm not. I don't think my job is necessarily to make sure that they know only true things at the same time. Now you're focused on one shots. That's why I don't make them recap. Well, there you go. That's another solve also. That'll do it. Now, it's interesting you say that, Ian, because I've thought about that in a couple different ways, because this absolutely should not be a TPK the party type of puzzle. That's not the goal. I mean, the goal is to have them thinking a little bit about it, but we don't want it to be that hard. Hey, congrats, Eli. In fact, we don't want this to take more than probably 10 or 15 minutes at the most, depending on how long your one-shot session lasts. So, I have a couple of ideas on that. I've been thinking about this. So let's do. Oh boy, I think the puzzle that I made, which I plan on walking through in its entirety, because the players have pretty much, I think, found everything. But the puzzle that I made that took the party better part of a year to solve, that was probably like the most. That and like sometimes like my buildings and stuff like that take a long time. But I made it was basically like a 5-part puzzle. I mean, I spent hundreds of hours making. I made a wizard's notebook. I made a map, kind of a large regional map. I made a set of bard scrolls, songs. There was this kind of like hidden compartment box I made out of foam. And the last one was, what was the last one? Oh, the last one was a sort of a pouch with some maps and some stuff, and it had a cryptex, and the cryptex was basically the crux of the whole thing. All of the puzzles had to be solved in order to get the final key to unlock the cryptex. Lots of sessions were spent with me kind of just hanging out with the party while they tried to solve it. But it was also important because if they went down a road or if they found something that like I screwed up, in a puzzle that's that big, I wanted to be there. That way I could be like, nope, don't count those seemingly, those are actually insignificant. Don't pay any attention to those, because I didn't want them. I didn't want them to, you know, have a really bad time. Like I wanted to be sporting about it. If I screw up something in a puzzle, I'll call it out. This is for my one shot, the commoner's one shot. This is the talisman that is hanging around the neck of the monster. And the big idea is that by solving it, well, the party needs to solve it because the monster is destroyed, the monster is down, commoner is cheering, patting each other on the back, and then everybody starts to back away, except for the heroes now, the new heroes in town, because they're like, why is that thing glowing around its neck? And everybody starts freaking out. It's going to bring it back to life. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. You guys have to stop it. So then the party is handed this. They see all these arcane markings, seemingly sort of handmade. It's been carved into whatever sort of language fits. And they notice that each of the kind of sections on the outside of the ring press in like buttons. And when you press them in, the glowing seems to pause, seems to slow for a few moments, and then seemingly judging whatever buttons you've selected, it will zap you if you're wrong. And so initially it was just the symbols, and now I'm going in and I added those words, and I'm like, actually, I want to add some additional words. Because, obviously, I mean, I won't know until I play test it, but... And this is technically the easier configuration. But this is the one that I'm designing first, and then I'll also update the more tricky version. Right? That's what I'll do? Right. But... I'll be working on this. I'll be toiling away at this also tonight. I've written up some stuff. Kind of. Both would work. So the solutions are either to press wend, send, extend, and ascend all at the same time, or press depart and dart. So you're either pressing like the shape or the negative space of the shape. Either way, all the words you're selecting fit very much in line with take us away, take us to another plane. The words that I'm writing out over here are going to fill in the gaps in between those words: remain, contain, abstain, chain, detain. And I'm probably going to like gray those out or make them lighter, make them, different, so that basically kind of connecting the idea of this thing as a, it's kind of like a wayfinder. It's kind of like opting yourself into a teleport, that kind of vibe. Press the picture, press the negative space, feels like the witness. Well, I want to keep it open. The goal here is to put a puzzle into a one-shot that doesn't kill the one-shot. That's why this is the easy version. And you'll know why when I show you the tougher version. Ignore the words because I'm changing where they live. But the tougher version doesn't have the shapes lined up exactly where they go and has them all twisted around in different ways. So you need 6 words that end in "ain" that feel like teleport or get away. That's kind of what I was going for, yeah. Except, wait, to end in "ain"? No, not that feel like teleport, that feel like stay, right? So contain, restrain, refrain. Because those are the words that are to be ignored. Those are the ones to... Yeah, I hope so, Gibson. I mean, this will be the one... This will be interesting because I've got multiple versions that I want to test, because I feel like you want the puzzle to be the right level of engagement that people can kind of discuss it and make a decision and do it at the table. It should not take more than 10 minutes, 15 minutes or whatever. It should be the shortest part probably of the entire session. But I think it's a fun inclusion for this. It makes a ton of sense with the narrative. And I'm thinking out of just have like kind of an easier version and a trickier version. Because you can also imagine, like, I can take these words away and it gets a lot harder, right? Now you've got to actually identify what those shapes are and what they're doing and how they're all in the wrong place. So I kind of like, I mean, I don't normally do this, but I kind of like in a one-shot context where you don't know anything about the players, having a couple different versions. So, hey, if your players are really comfortable with puzzles, maybe give them this one, maybe give them this, and smile and it's a challenge and see how they handle it. Because a few people, and this is why playtesting is going to be everything, just like it always should be for puzzles. You know, T, I think you looked at it for 90 seconds. I think if it was the tricky version and there were 4 or 5 people sitting around a table, I bet they could crack it. I bet they could turn it around in their heads and look at the things and say, well, this kind of looks like a shape, and like, hey, did you think of this? And I bet they'd solve it. But yeah, I mean, maybe, right? Especially when you, since all of the symbols line up. So like if you see the squiggly S and that lines up with the squiggly S, and it's like, oh, now I can imagine it fitting into that shape. So like I said, there'll probably be 2 versions, maybe 3, depending on how many levels of difficulty I want to support. And then I'll just have to test each of those differently or with different groups and see how they respond to it. Luckily, I can use this in my games that I'm running right now. I can pretty easily fold it in and see what they think. True. That's true also, Gibson. This is definitely one of those that'll benefit from being able to show me running it for some people and show how you run and support players going through a puzzle, because I think there's a good way to do it and a bad way to do it. But I'll be back on tonight here in a few hours, hacking away at this and writing up all the ways to run it. Oh, that's great, T. Congrats to your family. That's very exciting. I'm going to go see what Crane needs and do dinner and stuff like that. So catch you guys later. Yes. Yes. You have my attention now. You can have my full attention for a few seconds at least.